Okay, is this any better? Can you hear me? Is my sound working? I have no clue because there's nothing here. Oh, there we go. Now I can see a. Is that? Okay, awesome. Finally. Yeah, I was just trying it on my desktop and it wasn't cooperating for some reason. So I don't know. I should have tested everything beforehand, but you know, that's just how I roll. We'll give it another couple minutes for more people to get here. We had folks from Germany and Indiana on the previous session, so hopefully they can rejoin and join in the ensuing hilarity. So, well, let's get the turn this off over here so I don't get distracted. Grace and peace to you from our Lord Jesus Christ and all the saints here in Central California. Um, Sorry for the technical difficulties over there with my desktop. It just was not cooperating. And probably a lot of it's my fault that I didn't test it out ahead of time. And I've never really done a YouTube live stream. So yeah, I don't know what the heck I'm doing. So just real quick, I'll kind of give you a rundown of what's been going on. My boss has been on vacation. So I've been kind of holding down the fort here. So didn't have time to make a video last week. And usually the videos are like no more than 2 weeks ahead of time. Usually I create these videos like on the fly the week leading up to when I publish them on Sunday. So they're unscripted, as you can probably tell. And I generally don't know what I'm going to do until I start doing it. So again, that's how I roll. Um, the only issues we got, well, last week we had some issues with a CT scan machine. And I really wanted to do a video on that, but it was in a very patient intensive area and I couldn't do any filming in there. Sorry, any videoing in there because patient rights. But we have a big CT scanning machine that was able to send data. So it takes like tons of images, obviously, and sends those data to a system called PACS. It was able to do that. And then it also sends it to another server called Rapid AI. And it wasn't able to send to that server. It could ping it, but it wouldn't send data to it. And I kept telling, well, I told them, if you can ping it, you can send data to it. No, we think you have a firewall issue. Well, check the firewall. There was no firewall issue. Finally, we hooked up Wireshark, and it wasn't even trying to send. It would send to the other systems. It wouldn't even try to send to this system. So they said, well, why don't we just change the IP to be the same as these other systems? I said, well, that's not really going to fix anything. I had to eat crow because when they changed the IP address and rebooted this thing, it was able to send data to everything. There's no ACLs involved. There's no firewalls involved. I kept trying to explain that to them. I said, you could probably change the IP right back and it would keep working. But I said, you know what? Let's call it good. So that's the only really updates I have from last week. There's some little minor, change VLAN on a port here and there, things going on this week. I'm going to be training somebody from the help desk who says he wants to learn networking. So we'll be training him and seeing how much he really wants to learn it. Because in this job, it can be feast or famine and long hours of boredom punctuated by moments of terror. So anyway, that's the only update I have. So I don't know if you guys have any questions. Otherwise, I'll just keep rambling on about nothing in particular. Any questions about what the job entails or what I do or why I don't do something? Sorry, coffee break. Yeah, it's starting to cool off. thank you very much. Wyra 10100. Am I required to maintain any certifications? From Joe Rockhead. Well, Mr. Slate doesn't require me to have any certifications here. They only require you to demonstrate the knowledge needed to do the job. But that's because I had a resume going back, over 30 years. So they didn't require me to have any certifications. If you're just getting started in the field, I can see why a company would want you to have a certification, because at least then you're demonstrating a basic level of knowledge. If you can pass the tests, then they know where they can start training you. So SEC Plus, is that a security thing? I'm not on the certifications anymore. So yeah, I know my boss, who's our security officer now, he has all kinds of certifications, Cisco and what is it, the CISSP, and yeah, he's got a bunch. So Tim Krug, hey, God bless you too, man. Appreciate that. So CompTIA Security Plus, okay. I will take your word for it. Like I said, I haven't been keeping up on the certifications. I used to have a CCNA. I had an MCSE back in the Windows NT days, so I was a Windows NT MCSE. And then when Windows 2000 rolled around, I got a MCSA and various and sundry MCPs. I was one test away from a MCSE-SQL certification, so never really finished that off. So there you go. So yeah, they're. I know my boss, Chris. His whole focus is security. So he's urging all of us to get security training. And given the latest intrusion attempt we've had, that's probably not a bad idea. So, well, while there's no questions coming in, I'll tell you about our latest intrusion attempt. So last month, my boss gives me a call at home. I was on call, so he called me, and I thought, oh, something's wrong, and it was. Oh, I'm sorry, no, I was not on call. So I figured if he's calling me, there must be something up, and there was. So he says, hey, what are you doing on the domain controllers right now? I said, I'm not doing anything on the domain controllers. I'm not on call this week, so I'm not doing anything. This was like on a Saturday. And he says, well, I got a notification that you are running a PowerShell script under your admin account. No, I'm not. So he says, do me a favor and change your password like right now. So I changed my password. He calls back a couple hours later. Hey, change your password again. Seriously? Okay, change my password again. So I did. It turns out that someone had hacked a VPN user's account and were able to get in. And since domain controllers allow normal users to do normal queries against the domain controllers, just query, this bad actor was querying for all the user accounts that it could find. And my admin account was one of them. Then, and security guys will probably understand this, I don't, he was able to find my password by, I don't know what he did, something to do with the certificates on the servers, and he was able to get my password hash. I'm sorry, I don't understand it, but he was able to crack my admin password and used that to hack into another domain that's under ours and just really start hammering their servers. Well, my boss caught it, and he lives for this stuff. And thanks to him, we were able to stem this tide. There were 2 admin accounts, mine and one other, that were cracked. And you can bet I have a super complicated password now. I mean, my password wasn't easy before, but it's much less easy now. So thanks to him, we were able to catch this. They did all kinds of forensics afterwards with our firewall vendor, Palo Alto. The FBI was actually involved, so that's why I can't comment much on it. But it looks like they were able to limit the intrusion right there and then and stop it in its tracks. Somebody from Switzerland. Okay, another question. Wima Madu, I'll get to you in just a second. Wyra, no, we did not have MFA at the time. Guess what? We do now. We were just in the process of implementing it. I had started last year, but it was just really befuddling me. And when my boss, we call him AC, when AC got in here, he set it up in like an hour because he'd done it so many times. And after that hack attempt, he just said, you know what, I'm just turning it on. We're not gonna warn the users. We're gonna send out one message saying this is happening. Here's what you need to do. You've got 3 days to get this done, and we're gonna turn it on. So yes, we have MFA now, and we're gonna implement MFA on all of our domain controllers and critical servers. So okay, Wima. Do I think AI will eventually take away the need for network engineers? I don't think so, because AI can't go out and actually change a patch cable. Maybe someday it can. I don't know if companies start buying like the proper switches and but somebody's still got to run cables and plug them in, and I don't know. I think it's going to probably network monitoring. Anybody that does any kind of network monitoring, I think AI is probably going to take care of a lot of that. Sifting through logs is where it'll really shine. So yeah. Say, do we send out an email for any admin change? So Gabriel Sly asks, do we send out an email for any admin changes we make? So what we do here is we have a change review board and a change control process. Anything that's going to affect the end user community, yes, we have to send out emails ahead of time, give them time to react and get ready for it. The change control board is where we get feedback from the department heads on what's going to happen and what's, so they know and they can communicate. Hopefully they can communicate to their departments what's going to happen. They don't always. So yes, we have a change control process and we do adhere to it. So just like me changing a VLAN on a switch, we still put in a change request on that, but it's just a routine change. It doesn't have to go before the board, and we can approve those ourselves. Adding firewall rules or setting up new VPN tunnels, that's not a change. So any kind of new implementation, we don't have to do a change control for that. So all right, Jack Bauer, is it appropriate for me to come and buy you a coffee at your hospital? Buy me a coffee, buy me lunch, buy me a breakfast burrito. I'll take it. Thank you for that, Jack. Oh, let's see. Oh man, can I? Erkosen Paul, am I saying that right? I can so. Sorry, Paul. I'm going to call you Paul. Sorry about that. How big is my network? How many switches do you manage? So there's, 120 logical switches. Physical switches, there's probably close to 300. That's all connected back to 4 core switches, 2 edge switches that control our access out over the WAN and internet, and a bunch of top of rack switches. So yeah, we've got a bunch, and it's all on me. Aowen Thomas asks, do you have MFA on your VPN login? Yeah, I just told a big long story about that. Yes, we do now. If you didn't hear the story, you can go back and watch the live Q&A, watch the stream, and I'm going to save it. and see what happened there. But yes, we do have MFA login on our VPN accounts now. Gabriel Sly says we put Duo on our servers. About to put it on our desktops. Yeah, I'm not sure what we're using here because AC, the boss, is implementing it, but Duo sounds familiar. Oh, and the other one, I call it Silver Fart. It's actually Silver Fort. I believe that's what we're using. It just came to my mind. What would be my Champ R? My airplane is called a Champ, by the way, Aeronca Champ. Champ R, what would be my Techo? I don't know. Recommendation for moving from help desk to admin role. Recommendation. Well, study networking. Study to start with the Network Plus. You want to get really ambitious. Take some CCNA classes. But if you have a network guy at your work or a group, try to befriend them. Ask them if there's anything you can do to help them. Ask them if you can just go along. It's hard for help desk guys because you've always got a lot of other work to do. That's what I'm finding here with our help desk guys. They want to learn it as well. I've got one that wants to basically be my apprentice. And the difficulty is in him finding time to actually come with me on these calls. But buddy up with them, see if there's anything you can do to learn, tell them you want to learn. And we do appreciate help desk staff that want to learn networking because it takes a lot of burden off of us. Okay, how much routing do I deal with? Not a whole lot. Our routing sits set up here. We don't do dynamic routing. It's all static. And basically because our routes just don't change that much. Actually, just 2 weeks ago, I added a route. That's the first route I've added in probably over a year. So yeah, we really don't do a whole lot of routing here. And when we do, they're all static. So Strauss Technique. Greetings from Germany. Yeah, again, thank you. Greetings from California. I don't know how to say it. Guten Nacht. I don't speak German. I don't even speak my wife's language very much. Pretty much just I can say good morning in many languages, but I don't speak any one of them. So, and to all my friends in Holland, goedemorgen. Anyway, let's see. Strauss Technique also asks, what is the internet speed of your primary and secondary connections? So our primary connection is 500 meg, but we have to share that with the entire county. We're owned by a county here in California. And so the county shares that. And we get a slice of it, but it doesn't all belong to us. Our backup internet, that's 100 meg, and that's it fails over that automatically. And we tell people that if primary goes down, then only business use on the secondary. So no Facebook. John G says, greetings from the UK. Greetings, John G. Greetings from California. Or cheers. Paul, Irko-san Paul asks, how do you do monitoring? I did a video probably a while back, it's probably last year, maybe the year before, I don't know. It's a product called Intermapper. It used to be Help Systems. What's it called now? Fortra. It's by Fortra. And it's a graphical monitor. I like it because you can draw out your network and then you can map all the switches from that. It's got lots of different monitors for servers and switches. Like everything else in the world, it's Cisco centric, and we're an Extreme Networks shop. So I can do basic, OID monitoring from them, and get at least the basics, CPU utilization, bandwidth monitoring, that sort of stuff. It'll do alarms. It'll do email alarms. It would do text alerting, but we don't have a setup for text. So Intermapper from Fortress Systems. P. Phillips says, hi. How you doing? Guten Abend? Oh, okay. No, my wife is not from Germany. She is from the Philippines. So good evening in her language would be magandang gabi. Magandang gabi, pares, friend. 500 meg. Yeah, I got a faster home connection too. So yeah, thank you. Thank you for that, John G, for reminding me how in, unsubstantial our network connection is here. 500 meg is usually enough, yes, for a whole hospital. It's actually enough for the whole county. So one of the things I've dropped a hint from time to time in my last job. I worked for a newspaper, and we had artists that would make the ads for the newspaper. They were in India, so to cut down on bandwidth from there, we used a product called Riverbed. I don't even know if they're still in business, but with Riverbed, you make a change to a huge graphic file. It literally only sends changes at the bit level, not even the byte level, not at the file level. The bit level are the only things that are sent across the network. It really speeds the network up. So you got slow bandwidth, which I guess I'm the only one that does these days. Riverbed. So again, we're a county, so we have to go with what the county gives us and what the taxpayers are willing to fund. Strauss is using 7 meg only for remote access. So we do have a second internet connection here that's used for our radiologists that actually look at the X-rays and the CT scans and the MRI scans. They are remote. They all work remote, and they actually work for another company. And we have a connection set up dedicated just for them. Right now, it's 100 meg. That's all they get. So we are now converting that over to a 500 meg connection for them. And for them, that should be more than enough, even with all the images that they transfer back and forth. And in fact, we got another project where they're putting their own imaging server here on our site. Well, we're installing it, but they're going to manage it and run it. So they will just connect to their imaging servers, and they'll finally get the bandwidth that they want. Yeah, my coffee's getting cold. Okay. Gabriel Salai says he's trying to figure out network documentation, monitoring tools, and such. I'm a year into a junior admin role. So are there good free tools? I'm sure there are. Most of them, like SolarWinds, and SolarWinds offers a limited free one. Depends on how big your network is, though. I know Intermapper will let you run it free for 30 days for any size network. So if you wanted to download and try Intermapper, I have to say that if you're used to working on PCs, you have to shift your thinking over to Mac, because it was developed on an Apple Macintosh, and the developers are very Mac-centric in their thinking. So, but I like it because it does two things. It actually diagrams the network and monitors it. So when a link goes down, you can see that link is down. You can see the switch effects. You can see the switches that are affected beyond it. I like it. It gives me a really quick, excuse me, overview of what's happening. So, Aowen Thomas asks, does your security team get much pushback from end users when trying to implement new security measures? This last time, when we implemented multi-factor authentication, there was zero pushback. We told them what was happening, and they understood the need, because 7 years ago, so actually when I first got hired in, my first week on the job, our hospital was hit with a virus, and it was not a virus, it was ransomware, and just shut the whole place down for a day or two while we tried to dig out from under it. Of course, I didn't do much because I was like my first week on the job, but some of them still remember that. So we didn't get much pushback on that. So, and plus my boss was really good about taking all the calls, any call that came in about problems with multi-factor authentication, he took care of it. So I really appreciated that. Let's see. I work for education in the Netherlands. We have a 10 gigabit connection. Okay. Korstian, you're in the Netherlands? Hey, you're my brother. My my first ancestor that came to America over 300 years ago was from East Flanders. So he was Dutch speaking. My last name is still Dutch to this day. So, and all I know how to say is Goedemorgen. That's it. And bedankt. So even though I go to a Dutch Reformed church, nobody speaks Dutch there. What is the salary range in my area? I only know what my salary is. So California obviously is a very high cost of living area. So, I mean, you could expect from low end networking to high end networking, you could expect anywhere from 50 to 200,000 and more, 50,000 to 200,000 more if you worked over in the Bay Area, which is 40 miles that way. Silicon Valley is 60 miles that way. So if you worked over in the Bay Area, like in San Jose or Santa Clara, you'd probably get substantially more, but I don't want to drive over there. So I did that for 13 years, no more. Oh, let's see. Gabriel says they hate using their personal devices for MFA. Just me not wanting to put email on my personal device, so I get it. Gabriel, same thing here. Users are users are users, and admins are admins are admins. I use my personal phone. I don't like it. The company will, the county will provide me a county issued phone, but I don't want to carry two phones, so I just use mine. Okay. Let's see. John G says, I remember the days with ransomware and adding write extension permissions on the servers to lock out the rewrite. Okay. It's been a while since I've been into servers, so I believe you. Now we've got a whole host of tools like CrowdStrike and Tanium and a whole bunch of tools for monitoring and managing the servers. And CrowdStrike's doing pretty good. In fact, CrowdStrike is what alerted us to that intrusion attempt long before we also have a service that called Provision that monitors the event logs of our servers and firewalls and tells us if something out of the ordinary is happening. CrowdStrike alerted us far in advance of when Provision did. So, do I still study? No. I'm a just-in-time knowledge kind of guy, so I get on all the knowledge bases and forums and try to research. When I need to know something, that's when I do it. As far as cracking open a book, this is the book I crack open every day. I was just reading 2 Timothy. So there you go. I probably should, but don't want to throw in a spoiler alert. Is most people, their career is on an upward slant. My career is on a downward slant. I'm getting towards the end of the race, so yeah, a lot of the technology is actually just getting beyond me because I've been in the game too long, I guess. So Mike asks, what is the retiring age in your country? It depends. I mean, some people like to retire early. Some people, we got some people here at work that really should be retired. That people work, far into their 70s. Some people still work in their 80s. So I don't want to do that. So I've been doing this long enough. When I retire, I'm going to be ready to retire, or at least if I want to work after that, I'll do a job that I just love doing and enjoy doing, and doesn't feel like a job. But normally, it's anywhere from most people would tell you it's anywhere from age 65 to 67 is when most people would retire. So. All right. Googly eyes from Mike. Well, you're welcome, Mike. Okay, questions have slowed down. Oh, let's see. What else can I talk about? Um, so yeah. Oh, why are there fewer network engineering jobs listing these days? I don't know. I still see quite a few. In fact, I was doing just on LinkedIn. Um, there were quite a few. I know here in California they're disappearing because so many businesses are fleeing California. Um, if you were to look over in the state of Texas or North Carolina, there's still tons of those jobs out there. But a lot of them are like, see me, I'm kind of a single discipline person. I'm in a silo. I'm in a network silo. Right across the aisle here from me is Leo, who's our server guy, and he does the server stuff, and I do the network stuff, and we kind of have like a little wall there, a little separation of duties. A lot of the networking positions I see, it's like you do everything. You do network, you do servers, you do backups, you do planning, you do user support. That's not for me. I don't have the energy or the brain power to be, IT department in one man. So, and that's what a lot of companies are asking for, and it's not really fair, but that's just the way it is. Okay. Imparthon asks, do I have any experience with Nexus platforms or core routing? Um, Nexus, no. Is that a Cisco thing? Because I'm not a Cisco guy. Core routing, yeah. I have experience with that. It was a lot more back at my last job because we had OSPF and BGP routing protocols on our ProCurve, HP ProCurve routers. But excuse me, I got to clear my throat. But at this job, our routes are all static. We don't do any protocols here. No BGP, no OSPF. We tried doing BGP here, but the core switches that sold us, they're switch slash routers. They're layer 3 switches. The core switches we were sold don't have the horsepower to actually do routing protocols. They were spiking the CPU, just doing BGP. Actually, the CPU was spiking just doing VRRP. So we had to choose one or the other. Which were we going to spike it over? And we chose VRRP so we could have the redundancy here in inside the campus. Let's see. Do I have any experience with other brands? So, I mean, my first networking job, it was Cisco. I had a CCNA at one time. That was two jobs ago. So it was for a small community bank here in town. And yeah, it was all Cisco, like 2950 switches and whatever the Cisco router du jour was back then. And then we didn't do MPLS there, or were we moving to MPLS? I think we moved to MPLS at that job, and then we had some ISDN lines for backup, and we would test those periodically. But yeah, and the only other networking experience I have is with IBM SNA networks, front-end processors, and 3274 and 3174 cluster controllers. So anybody old enough out there to remember all that stuff? 8-inch floppy disks. Yeah. Home make idea. Did Rust is useful for firewall? I'm sorry, I don't understand the question. Did Rust? I'm guessing you dictated that and it didn't understand you. So is useful for firewall. I don't know. Ask the question again. Maybe ask it a different way and I'll understand it. I'm not saying it's you, but I don't understand the question. So sorry. How does my company plan to migrate to cloud? I don't think we do plan to migrate to cloud. First of all, we're not a company. We're owned by a government, so we're government owned. Um, The only cloud-based solutions we have are being offered by vendors. Like I made reference earlier to the CT scanners send CT images to a server called Rapid AI. And Rapid AI, it's really not a server, it's a company. And they sense that server, it sends up to their cloud, which I believe is up in Amazon Web Services. They do their voodoo to it, eliminating the need for a doctor. That's who ought to really worry about AI. It's not network admins, it's doctors. It does its voodoo and sends the images right back down to us with whatever its findings are on whatever the patient's issue was with their brain. So Gabriel Sly says Azure is a beast. I will take your word for it. That's Leo's job. He works with our Azure environment, and he just seems to do pretty good with it. So Thomas, thank you for your answer, sir. You are welcome, sir. John G writes, here in the UK, IT jobs tend to be generic and not specific. You need to know a lot of everything. Yes, that's pretty much the way it is here for most of the US. Is a jack of all trades, master of none, I believe is the phrase. And that's what I was when I worked at the bank. Basically, we managed network, we managed servers, we managed desktops, we just everything. Did desktop imaging, and so that's I got laid off from that job when they were bought by a French bank. BNP Paribas bought out our bank, and then it got sold to Bank of the West, and yeah, they laid us all off. So because all the stuff we did was already being done overseas. So finished troubleshooting that fiber. No, I think that's going to be an ongoing job until I retire. The problem is that no matter how clean the hospital is, when you go into our network rooms, there is plaster dust everywhere. The engineering guys go in and out, and they bump things. They bump the fibers. There's no protective cage around the fibers, so they come out of the patch panel and they dangle down and go into our switches. Yeah, should I change that? Yeah, probably. But right now, that's the way it's set up. And so some of those fibers, you just breathe on them and they start throwing CRC errors. So I think that's going to be a one of those jobs that just never end. Like who's that in Greek mythology? The guy that kept pushing the rock up the hill. That's what it feels like. Oh, so okay. And by the way, that particular fiber, um, I just left it down a couple weeks ago. Just left it down over the weekend. Said, "Oh, I'll just mess with it on Monday." So I came back on Monday, did a no shut on it. It came back up, and it's been up ever since. So I don't know. Let's see. Acroto 210 asks, how can one get experience with sysadmin networking if a job wants experience and you don't have that experience? Seems like a catch-22. Yeah, it is. It's a catch-22 for just about any job. Recent college grads in any industry or any skill, that's the thing. They won't hire you because you don't have the experience. You can't get the experience because nobody will hire you. So that's what I mentioned earlier. That's where certifications really come in and they shine. The problem is, to get those certifications, there's an expense involved. It's like, well, haven't I paid enough for school? No. So that's usually the best way. That's the only way a company can really know, because anybody can come in and say, oh yeah, I know all about that. And the problem is most of the interviewers don't know enough about that to ask you the right questions to prove that you know enough about that, whatever that is. So when you have a certification, you come in with a, Network Plus or a CCNA or a CNP or whatever they all are now. Then they know you at least meet a minimum level of skill and knowledge, and that's where those certifications come in handy. Sisyphus, thank you, Waziek. That's absolutely right, Sisyphus. Thomas agrees. Good. Yeah, Tyler makes a good suggestion. Set up a home lab, get some experience, especially with breaking it and then fixing it. Um, I used to have a boss way back, and this wasn't networking related. This was electronics related. Because for those of you who don't know, I started out. I have a degree. Having trouble talking. I'm sorry. I have a degree in electronic engineering. My first boss used to love and go in and throw problems in and have us find them. And sometimes he would tell us he did it, sometimes he wouldn't. So breaking things and then fixing things is a great way to figure out how things work. So that strange network stacking module issue that I've had. Well, since I replaced the switch and replaced that stacking module, I haven't had any issues. Now, I did the exact wrong thing when you actually want to narrow down an issue to what component is causing the problem, in that I replaced multiple components. And I always tell people, don't do that. And I don't like to do that. But in this case, it was our emergency room, the emergency department. And you got people coming in this area we live in. We get a lot of people with gunshot wounds. We get a lot of people with, heat problems, heat exhaustion. And we're also the local trauma center for the county. So we get a lot of auto accidents coming in. Helicopters fly them, and we've got a helipad out there. So having parts of the emergency room down while I try to figure out a problem is just not the way to do it. Now, if you'll recall, I did put that switch on a bench with that particular stacking module in it. And I thought I had gotten it to fail, but I hadn't. So it looked like it failed one time, and then every time I tried to reduplicate that failure, it wouldn't happen again. So I don't know. I've just taken that stacking module out, marked it as bad, and set it aside. And at some point, I'll probably just start an RMA with Extreme to get it replaced, just in case. Oh, as EX says, any experience is better than nothing. Start at a help desk or some kind of technician, even with crazy certs. No one will hire a CCIE high-level Cisco expert with no experience on the job. Hey, he's got a point. So I haven't been hired in 7 years, and the reason I got hired here was, okay, I know a lot of you guys don't like to hear about God, but most of you do. It was a God thing, because I applied to this job the last day it was open with just what experience I had. It was a lot. I was the last interview on the last day that they were doing interviews, and they were asking me about my experience, and I told them, yeah, I was going around the country, replacing old switches with new switches and implementing voice over IP for them, which on my end was just setting up the switch side, making sure it worked with the Avaya phones that we were using at the time. And setting that all up, setting up the VLANs, all that stuff. And they were just looking at me. One lady just had her mouth open like the whole time. I thought, okay, they hate me. And the CIO called me back later that day and said, I'm not supposed to tell you this, but you got the job. And it turns out I had exactly the right experience they were looking for, because they were just getting ready to deploy voice over IP for the very first time and needed somebody who had done it. So voice over IP technically is how I got this job. It's just having experience setting up switches for it and knowing all the other Extreme Networks tools. And I was lucky this just happened to be an Extreme Networks institution. So let's see. Crazy certs. Okay, Thomas answers the question about free network monitoring tools. Is Packet Tracer, is that network monitoring? Is that more of a simulator? Oh, that's a simulator. You can simulate a home lab, I believe, with Packet Tracer. So correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's the truth. Jimmy Hybrex asks, not sure if it was asked yet, since I just got here, do I also use things like BGP here? No, yeah, and I did answer that earlier. No, we are completely a static routing shop. From the core switches to the firewalls, everything's static routes. So And Crypto Packet already answered the question for me. Thank you, Crypto Packet. Hey, Jimmy, no sweat, man. There are no dumb questions. I figured there would be lots of repeat questions, and I don't care. Don't worry about it, man. So yeah, Wizziak is clarifying about Packet Tracer. I don't know why I'm reading that. You guys can all read that. Do I see myself working in a cloud technology? Well, we kind of work at the periphery of a cloud technology. And sorry, that question came from Mike, the one and only Mike. So we kind of do already. We've got some backup services that are in the cloud. We've got some medical record monitoring services that are in a cloud. Our medical records provider technically is a cloud. It's just this cloud is directly connected to us via hardwired connection. Most other entities we're connected to via VPN. Cerner, now owned by Oracle, is we have a direct WAN connection in with them with their own routers, switches, firewalls, and so forth. So, and they're considered a cloud because we just send everything to them and they send it all back. Okay. Are you just layer 2 from the core to the closet then? Yes, in Parthon, we are just layer 2 to the closet. And in fact, when we went from our old core model to the new fabric model, we implemented 4 core switches because we wanted maximum redundancy. And all 4 of those cores were layer 3. And because of some of the CPU issues and the complexity of maintaining VRRP across 4 core routers, 2 of those core routers just got collapsed into just layer 2. So we removed all the layer 3 information from them, and they just became layer 2. So we have 2 layer 3 routers, switches. Yeah, one's up here in our data center, and the other's down in the basement of the hospital, which is across the campus over there. So a little bit of geographic diversity. And the way we have it set up is that if this data center goes away, we've got routing and firewalls and network connectivity outward over the WAN down in the basement of the hospital. So we can lose either one and we can still communicate with the outside world. Okay. Tyler asks, do I want to configure IGPs, but the business doesn't buy in? No, I'm personally very comfortable with static routes. We don't change that often. Like I said, the first routing change I'd made in a year happened 2 weeks ago. So yeah, would it be cool? Would it be brainless to have routing protocols in here? Yeah, but because of the low quality frankly of our layer 3 switches, it doesn't make sense. You know, if you're only doing one routing change a year, do you really need a routing protocol? No. Asking for a friend. Wizik says cloud is a lie. Yeah, that's true. There's still servers and everything in there, so, and networking. It's not really a cloud. Otherwise, your redundant domain controllers are a cloud because you can ask either one of them for information. Okay, Croto 210. Are the connections between your fabric switches trunks or IP links? They are trunks. So I'm still new to fabric, so don't look at me as a definitive source. In fact, there are people out there that know that watch me that know far more about fabric than I do. So I can I know what an ISID is. I can set up an MLT. That's what all of ours are. They're SMLT trunks from the switches back to our four cores. So that's how we do it. Skip Nasty loves Packet Tracer. All right. With such a big network, how often do I get spanning tree warnings? I really don't. I don't see any. We've got spanning tree configured on all the switches. And our network really isn't a mesh. It's a tree, or a star network, I guess you could say. But it looks like a tree. So we've got branches everywhere. There's no redundant paths back. I mean, you won't hop across another switch to get back. If you go out to one switch, you're going to come back the same path. So at least over the same trunk. You know, that's the way we work here. So heard everybody packs a gun in Texas. Is that true? What about California? I don't know. I don't live in Texas. I believe their laws permit anyone to carry a concealed weapon. Same with Florida. So if you ever go to Disney World in Florida, know that anybody there could be carrying a gun. Is that a bad thing? I don't think so. What about California? No, California, you have to get a permit to carry a concealed weapon, and that is issued by the county that you live in. So, so over in San Francisco County, City and County of San Francisco, there's no way you are going to get a gun permit. Los Angeles, you're probably not going to get a gun permit. Some cities can and will issue them. Like if you own a jewelry store or something, you can get one, but California generally frowns on it. Now I live in a more agricultural county. I live about 80 miles from San Francisco. Same with Sacramento County. We live in a rural county. Our sheriff is very pro Second Amendment. He very much believes in the rights to carry arms. He believes in armed citizenry, because a law-abiding citizen with a gun is no threat to anybody, right? I mean, criminals with guns, well, they don't abide by law, so they're going to go get guns no matter what. So, and spoiler alert, I do not carry a gun at work. At work. Okay. Let's see. Gabriel Sly says, I feel like I have to do and be told things multiple times. And they definitely get frustrated. I feel my memory is bad sometimes, and I'm sorry for it, but sometimes it's no good. Yeah. Well, welcome to the club, Gabriel. My memory is not much good either. That's why I finally implemented this thing I like to call notes. So I've been keeping a lot of notes lately. I use OneNote. I was never a big OneNote user up until about 4 or 5 years ago, when I felt my memory starting to slip. And what did I do to fix that thing? So I take notes on everything now, everything, with screenshots and sometimes diagrams go into my Microsoft OneNote. So yeah, you're not the Lone Ranger, Gabriel. Okay, Jimmy Hybrex asks, in the past, I mentioned my boss leaving. Are you still the sole network engineer at the hospital? So our CIO likes to call me a network engineer because that sounds great. I'm really not a network engineer. I'm a network administrator. I don't design and build out networks. I manage them. So I consider myself a network administrator. So yeah, so if you saw my interview with my boss a couple years ago, wonderful woman named Amanpreet. Yeah, she has left. She's actually moved over to the county next door to get a different job over there. She wasn't really happy with the opportunities she was being given here. So she found some other opportunities at a adjacent county. And I think that move was made just so she could stay within the pension system. And yeah, so she's gone. The new boss is named Arnell. We call him AC. Those are his initials. And he's very much security focused. And I am very glad he is here, because we need that security focus right now more than ever. So All right. Well, you know what? It's coming up on an hour, and I do hear the big boss out there happily chatting away. So I think I need to call it. Um, thank you all for joining. I really, really appreciate the questions. I hope you got something out of it. And if you didn't, I hope it was a good waste of time. So as always, if you like what you saw, click the subscribe button, click the notification bell, and give me a thumbs up. If you want to give me a thumbs down, I don't really care, but it won't really do anything. YouTube won't display it. So, but I will be back next week with another like real life video. So I'm gonna look around today and tomorrow and see what I can talk about. So God bless, guys. Have a great day, and we'll catch you next time. Now, how the heck do you turn this thing off? Yeah.